Welcome to Stardust Stereo. I'm Parker McPhinney. I'm your host. Today's the 23rd of February, year 2025. Today I'm going to speak about the new moon in Pisces, which will occur on Thursday, the 27th at 4:44 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you live elsewhere, you will have to do the math. This new moon occurs at 9 degrees Pisces and 40 minutes arc. So we rounded off to 10 degrees Pisces. It is loaded because there's so many planets in Pisces right now. And we interesting to me, from an astrologer's point of view, being objective and not emotional, which is not always easy for me. I believe we're going to have a new pope. Absolutely 100% every indicator of a new pope is there astrologically. Not just this new moon, because Pisces represents higher consciousness, it can represent spiritual leaders. Traditionally, we would say Jupiter represents the religious leaders, if you have a definition between religion and spirituality. But Pope Francis, in his birth chart, which I have with the time, clearly shows a transition. So even if he does not leave the body, I wonder if a new pope will be appointed, or if we'll have simultaneously two people. I don't know if that's ever happened. The reason I say simultaneously two leaders, maybe one is ailing and another takes over. I don't know how that works. But it's because Jupiter is in Gemini, which deals with the twins. That makes me wonder. And the chart for the Vatican clearly shows that they are coming upon a time for a shift, without no doubt at all. Today, Mars in the sky stations direct. So we will currently, this week, have all the planets moving in a direct motion. The Vatican chart has the moon, the sun, and Mercury, all in Gemini, in the 10th house at the top of the chart, showing public standing. It is 29 degrees Taurus on that 10th house cusp, and Gemini is intercepted, meaning it's like a closet inside of a closet, or a room inside of a room, or a room that has a closet and then another room. So within the representation of the Vatican, we have Jupiter in the sky about to conjunct that moon. Jupiter in the sky is at 12 degrees Gemini, the moon representing the public and how the public views the 10th house, and also it would represent, I believe, the needs of the Vatican. Jupiter's about to conjunct that moon placement, and that indicates a change. So they're being aware that a change is about to manifest. Even if it doesn't happen this week with the new moon in Pisces, and with Neptune at the almost last degree of Pisces conjunct the North Node in Pisces, which would be another indicator showing the end of one cycle and the beginning of another. Additionally, Taurus at the last degree, 29 degrees, at that 10th house cusp, it's actually 29 degrees and 59 minutes arc. So it's like the very last which is not considered an auspicious degree, number one. But number two, that would give Venus as the ruler of the midheaven their public standing, and Venus currently is at 10 degrees Aries. It's just crossed over the solar eclipse that's going to occur at the end of March at 9 degrees Aries. And right before that solar eclipse, Neptune, which represents spiritual leadership, is changing from Pisces to Aries. That's the third indicator to me of a new spiritual leader, which will be a younger one, a very fiery one, and one that will promote the family and the making of babies. And I've written about this because Mars is currently in the sign of Cancer, the sign of the family. Even if the Pope, who is a hard worker, and some of the news reports indicate that he's worked himself so hard, that's why he has taken ill, and of course being older. But I have noticed that when people are aware people, that their time is coming to a closure, they work very hard to finish what they need to do before they drop the body. And they don't have to be the Pope to do that. And I would imagine that the Pope has deep insight as to when he is going to be called home. In addition to all of that, in the Vatican chart, Uranus is at 10 degrees Aries. So Venus today is, right now, conjunct that point, which would indicate a sudden message. And Venus happens to be in the Vatican's 8th house of transition, death, birth. Everything I look at, oh yeah, and then also Mars in the sky is exactly conjunct Pluto in the Vatican chart, in the 11th house. So everyone is acutely aware from the astrological point of view that a shift is about to happen, I believe, within the Vatican. And of course, we send our thoughts to Pope Francis. I think he's a fabulous Pope. And I know I said this podcast was about the new moon, and it is about the new moon, but it's now turned into being about the new moon and the Pope. So I am actually going to say a few comments on this chart, and then I'm going to upload this, and then I'm going to do a second podcast further detailing the new moon in Pisces, which occurs on Thursday. In the chart, in the birth chart, we have a couple of markers that can indicate a transition. Doesn't always mean that it's dropping the body. And I just want to say, I've always had an issue with people that say you shouldn't predict death. They're okay with the birth part of the cycle, but they don't want the death part of the cycle. And that has to do with our cultural view of death in the Western world anyway. However, the nodes, when they're activated, usually have a significant message that a life shift is happening. And that life shift could be dropping the body, freedom. Currently, in the sky, we are about to have a lunar eclipse at 23 degrees Virgo, and it will activate the Pope's nodes. It will create a T-square with his nodes. And that lunar eclipse will occur in his 9th house. That alone would not be a significant indicator of dropping the body. But he also has, in the sky, Saturn, just past a conjunction of his birth, Saturn, and he also has Neptune in the sky in a trine with the North Node to his first house, Pluto. Now, I imagine that the Pope does not view death is a bad thing because he's reuniting with the source. I would imagine that he has a higher consciousness view of leaving the body, having done everything he needed to do here on earth. You cannot come without the divine spark, and you cannot leave without the divine spark, and it is a divine spark. I've been in the room when a loved one crossed, and the power of death is, which I also call the absolute. There's no words for it. There is absolutely no words whatsoever for this energy force. And it actually put me in a state of silence for 12 hours. I was so in awe. So I don't view birth and death as separate things. Or I should say, one is good and one is bad. If I had any view, it would be reverse of that. We want to pray for Pope Francis's well-being, of course. And if it is his time to transition, an easy, smooth, beautiful transition. Thank you for listening. This is Stardust Stereo. I'd like to thank my patrons. If you'd like to become a patron, you can do so at patreon.com/ParkerMcP. And I want to remind you, you are made of stardust, so go shine.